Com wild card weekend, the first of 4 games about to kick off in slightly about an hour and a half time. We got you covered here at Sportsbook Review. It's going to be a nice little closing line opening here and then a nice night of live lining, as we like to say. Hopefully we can certainly win some money. That is the name of the game, but we're here today to set the table, not only for today's games on Saturday. We also going to set the table for Sunday. We got 4 games to go over. We'll be on for about a half hour, have some fun, mix it up. Jay, my partner all season long on the closing line. Big day starts now, buddy.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. 18 weeks, and it comes down to this. Excited.
And no, we should have a good time here. And this are really good games. And again, look, this week is like to whet the appetite. Next week, the big boys come into play with divisional round football. But there's a lot of ins and outs. The one thing, as we do our gamblers, obviously, you want to take a look like some weather conditions and windy conditions. There's 2 games that are going to be in a dome, so they won't be any sort of conditions whatsoever. But then you take a look at the New England game, thinking about maybe, colder, rainier, but now we're looking at the latest forecast, might be dry for the first half, not much in the way of snow. And then take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles game. The conditions actually get better as the day goes on tomorrow. Open up that game, Jay, with about maybe 10 to 12 mile an hour winds. Then it dips down to about 5 miles an hour in the second half. No rain in that game. We're set up for a pretty good card, pretty clean card, as I would like to say here.
Yeah. The only spot that I saw rain was in New England, right?
Correct. Yep. Tonight we're supposed to get some rain. A lot of people were even saying, Jay, this. It's funny because I think it's the winter storm. Henry's coming through, which is apropos coming from a running back that might do some damage against the Patriots, but it doesn't look like it's really going to be that hampering. And as you know, Jay, what do we look at? Remember the game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Patriots? Wind, sideways rain, horrible conditions. Not going to be the case tonight in Foxborough here.
Yeah, Donnie, all 4 games, right? I would say I truly believe that the Saints win and rather easily. But with the exception of that, I think every dog is live to win every game this weekend.
No, I totally agree with you. And when the playoffs come around, and you saw it this year, the numbers bear. The road teams this year, especially covering ATS, were phenomenal this year when home field advantage is a huge, huge deal in the NFL. If I'm looking at these 4 games and all shows I've been doing this week, I'll ask you the same thing. I think 3 home teams are going to win. If you say out of these 4 games, who's the biggest shot for a road team to come in and get that victory? Who would it be for you this weekend?
Oh, Seattle. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do think Buffalo is alive. And I think the both of us have thought all year, New England, that defense slightly overrated based on strength of schedule. Mm-hmm. And that Tennessee offense has been rolling for 2 months. Would it shock me to see Tennessee go in there today and beat them? Absolutely not. But, man, I think Seattle, I know they have injuries. I know they do. But like you've been saying for weeks, the Eagles have been putting a practice squad out there some games. So I would say I think Seattle is a substantially better team than the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you needed one road team that wins this week, I guess I would go with them. But I do think both dogs today are live.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. We'll start it right away here, 4:35 kickoff. And as I said, guys, look, right after the show ends, going to dip right into the live line, set you up ready to go. Jay, I know you have a lot of prop bets on the hook that you can certainly give out even before that game is going to kick off, and then we'll carry it right through. A great day of football here on the channels. If you haven't done so yet, also hit the links below there, support the channels, SBRodds.com. That's exactly what we're using, so we'll dip right into it. Buffalo and Houston, as we said, 4:35. Ticket split's about even here, Jay. Line opened up at -3, but across the board all week long for the majority of the week, it stayed at that 2.5 number. Now, we have had some movements here on the total. Opened up about 41.5, rising to about 44, now dipping back to 43s and 43.5s. Again, no weather concerns here. It's going to be in a dome, so obviously no wind and no rain to worry about. Fast track out here. If I'm looking at this game, Bill O'Brien is always one of those big things that is, sort of that log in the road when you're trying to drive down the street saying, dude, you want to get by this? He's in a favorite position. Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback. Josh Allen is a talented quarterback. Overall, if you're looking at more weapons, both sides of the football, you probably would lean towards Houston because Deshaun Watson can turn, it's sort of like Russell Wilson can make plays, but he's down a key wide receiver today, Jay, with Will Fuller, which is going to lean on DeAndre Hopkins, which is a great 1A to lean on, but Tre'Davious White's going to be on the opposite side there. It always comes down to me with the Buffalo Bills. I know they're going to give a good effort, and I'm going to bring up some stats here in just a few moments to prove it. It's just a matter of can their quarterback hit the open receiver in order to give them some points here today, Jay?
Yeah, Deshaun Watson's QBR dropped substantially when Will Fuller is not playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he is not going, right? Is that correct?
He is out for today's ball game. Yes.
Right. So, yeah. So you're going to have to lean on Hopkins, Stills, and Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson out of the backfield. This is what I'm thinking to myself. I think it's going to be a close game, Donnie. I do. I think it's going to be an ugly Buffalo Bills going to try to do the best they could do on offense. But if you're telling me this game's close in the fourth quarter, who do you want in the fourth quarter, Deshaun Watson or Josh Allen? And I mean, I think Deshaun Watson, while we have seen Josh Allen improve this year, I think that Watson's a substantially better quarterback at this point in his career. So I think it'll be a low scoring game. I don't know, like a 24-20 type game.
Yeah.
So I think the total is lined right. I don't really see a ton of value personally, but I think that the Houston Texans on the money line -133, I think it's worth a shot. I do think that they get the job done. I know how good Buffalo has been all year on defense, but they're still the 26th ranked passing offense, and they do have a good running game. I would say anybody that's looking to back Buffalo, you have got to take Devin Singletary over 68.5 rushing yards, because I think that they correlate. If he's not running the football, and by running the football, I mean, if it's a close game, Buffalo's going to be able to run the ball more. If he doesn't go over that 68.5, I think that it's a hard ask that they win the football game. So I would be looking to take both of those together. But I think at the end of the day, Houston's going to get the job done, even though Bill O'Brien's not great. I do think they get the job done. Give me -135 on the money line.
Yeah, Seth Dahman, 777 in the chat box, says the Bills 23-20, that type of game. I see it either way, like in that 23-20, 24-21 type of situation. And I do agree with you on Singletary, because he is that key cog in the backfield. Frank Gore can get you the 2 yards to 3 yards, maybe a goal line carry. But if you're going to win this football game, Devin Singletary is going to have to pop, what, Jay? At least 2 runs of 15 yards or more to keep the chains moving, explosive plays, and even looking at something out of the backfield with catches, the screen pass game. He is going to be a key contributor in this one. If we take a look at some numbers, I put out a video a little bit earlier, trying to dip into a little bit more than just the side of, let's just say, taking it 2.5 for the total. I actually like the Buffalo Bills here, Jay, in the first half, catching the 1.5. I took them a little bit earlier on 5 dimes. If you look at the last 8 games that the Buffalo Bills starters have played, because obviously we'll take out that New York Jets game in the rain where they had, a lot of guys, they lost that game. They're 5-2-1 straight up in the first half. And if you take a look at some of those numbers, the one game they lost 7 weeks ago was to the Cleveland Browns 9-7 in the first half. And Hauschka missed a 34-yard kick in that game. So theoretically, if he makes that short kick, they win that one and go 6-1-1. And also you said, well, Donnie, who's the only loss they've had? Not so bad, Jay, to take a 10-6 first half loss to the Baltimore Ravens, who to me are probably going to be the Super Bowl champions. They run really well in the first halves of games. They're going to be catching points. I think teams will play it a little bit closer to the vest in the first half. I like the Buffalo Bills in this one, Jay, getting 1.5 in the first. But getting back to some points where are we going to get points? It's a playoff game, and you know as well as I do. When you took a look at hockey and basketball, it's always, look, we're not running double reverse passes probably in the playoffs. If it's going to be 4th and 3 from the 50-yard line in a 0-0 game, and we may be saying, you know what, it's week 17 and 16, maybe we go for this. How about we punt it down to the 5-yard line? Those are key swings in these type of games. So I do agree. I think it's lined perfectly at the 43-44 number. I do. I don't have a feeling that, I could really see a 16-10 ball game. I don't see that. But also at the other end of the spectrum, Jay, I don't see 31-30 either here.
No, I agree. 24-21, 23-20. I don't begrudge anybody in the chat that's taken the Buffalo Bills. I get it. It's a really, really close game. I'll tell you, if Buffalo finds success on the offensive side of the ball, the Houston Texans are in trouble, because that Buffalo defense is real. So, I mean, I just am going to rely on what I think is the better quarterback. Is it a concern that the Texans right now are 25th in rushing defense, 29th in passing defense? Yes, it is. But I just think Deshaun Watson is a special player, and I think he finds a way to get it done.
No, and I agree with the sentiment there. And how about this game, Jay? Because we can always pontificate and say how we think it's going to play out. And people will tell you, well, one player doesn't make a difference. Let me tell you something. 100% healthy Will Fuller in this football game.
Oh,
yeah. I would be nowhere near the Bills. And it's not to say the Bills couldn't win the game, but you're talking about opening up one side of the field because you're right. And I thought I saw the statistic, Jay. They average 7 points more per game, the Houston Texans, when Will Fuller's in the lineup as opposed to not being in the lineup. And also, it's not like when you play, we always like to joke around with the Philadelphia Eagles secondary. Like Tre'Davious White is over there. That is a serious threat. Not to say DeAndre Hopkins is going to have 4 catches for 40 yards and no scores. I just don't think he can have 8 for 160 in that respect. So in this game, I'm leaning towards the Buffalo Bills. I really like the Buffalo Bills in the first half. And that over-under, tough one there. I probably lean towards over just because, again, it's not 40-mile-an-hour winds and it's rainy. It's in a dome. I think some plays are there to be made, but that's a little bit touchier. I do lean Buffalo Bills. If you had to take a play on this game, Jay, which way would you lean here?
A play on the total, I would lean slightly over with you. As far as the side, I think I would take the Texans money line minus 132.
Can't fault you, man. Can't fault you on that. Let's take a look at the night game tonight, as we already previewed. Not a lot of weather concerns that we thought might have been there. It's not raining currently in Foxborough. It doesn't look like it's really going to rain that much through the first half. And even in the second half, Jay, we're not talking about, oh, man, wait till this rain and wind hits. It's really not going to come. If it does rain, maybe a drizzle or a light drizzle. And that's nothing because, again, you're talking about a stadium that does have turf, so it's not going to be that bad of conditions. If we look at the over-under in this one, opened up at 43.5, 44. We're seeing primarily, Jay, at SBRodds.com, 45s across the board. The number that has shifted really is the actual line of the game. 5s and 5.5s, now down to 5s, 4.5s, and even 4s. So shop around because that is a key number between, you said, well, wait, 5.5, 4.5. Well, yeah, basically means you're going to have to win by a touchdown. But how many times do we see that number pop out, Jay? 24-20. Be nice to have the 4 if you took the favorite, or it'd be nice to have the 5.5 if you took the underdog in that situation. I think a lot of us are still leaning on saying, you know what, the New England Patriots are at home. It's going to be tough to beat. And I understand that. And I think the Titans have a lot to be positive about in their corner. Tannehill's been sensational since taking over from that shutout loss to the Denver Broncos, moving them, 24, 25, 28, 30 points a game, 40 points a game. They've been able to do that, but the Patriots do have a pretty good defense, and I'm waiting for the inactives in this game to make sure Jason McCourty is going to be out there because they have a formidable secondary. Is one thing, Jay, because you can't say this is the Patriots of 2011 and they're going to do this. Tom Brady has slowed down. This offense just isn't the same. And this is a pretty good Titans offense coming in here tonight.
I've struggled with this game the most, Donnie, of all 4 games. I'm just not a believer in this. I don't think that this is the number 1 defense in football. I think their strength of schedule has been a joke. I think they've played 3 real teams this year. Houston, the Chiefs, and Baltimore. They dropped them all. Okay, yeah, they gave up 9 points to the Cowboys at home. Cowboys, as good as their offense was, one of the most inconsistent football teams in the league this year. I think that this Tennessee Titans offense is really good with Ryan Tannehill. And I think if they consistently find success on the offensive side of the football, the Patriots could be in trouble. Now, everybody says, Jay, they're at Foxborough. It's the Patriots at Foxborough in the playoffs. And you know what? You're right. That there is a substantial head coaching advantage to the Patriots. Do I think Tom Brady is a top 10 quarterback in football anymore? No, I don't. And it's controversial. I get on my show all the time. I'm out of my mind. Yeah. But I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback anymore. Do I think Ryan Tannehill is going to be able to hang with Tom Brady in this football game? Yeah, I do. The one thing I think, Donnie, I think I lean over. I agree with the move because – as good as this Titans offense has been, the defense has struggled the last 8 weeks. This is not a great defense, not nowhere near as good a defense as they had last year. So I'm torn on the side. I want to take the points. If I can get a 5 out there closer to game time, I would probably take the 5. I think they could squeak within the 5. And I agree with the line move to the over. I think because the Titans struggle defensively, we're going to see Tom have success. Yes. And I think that the Titans offense is better than people give them credit for. And I think they're going to find success. So I lean over.
Yeah, we try to poke holes in a couple different theories here because that's the only thing you can do to try to see the game play out. But I agree with your settlement in a lot of ways in this game because you're right. As much as we knock the New England offense, it's not as if, Jay, they're getting held to 10 points a game. They're still scoring in the 20s. Last week, the Miami Dolphins aren't a very good defense, but they still were able to get 24 points in that game. You saw them against a bad defense, Cincinnati get 31. Now, look, the Titans are better at defense than both of those two ball clubs. But again, we're talking about optimum conditions here that aren't going to be detrimental to scoring. Both of these teams should be able to take shots, and especially with Ryan Tannehill, when you look at what the Patriots do well, right? I mean, of course they're going to be coached well. They have a good secondary. Their pass rush isn't all that dominating, but Ryan Tannehill doesn't have two concrete boulders attached to his feet. He's going to be able to move around and make some plays. And they have, hey, Delaney Walker's out. Well, Jonnu Smith has been just as good as what Delaney Walker would have been. They're young wide receivers playing really good football, and they have a pretty good offensive line. And let's not forget Henry in the backfield, which you can run on the New England Patriots. I like the overplay in this game. And it's one of those where you're saying, like, maybe the public catches on and they're getting all these reports out here about how bad the weather is when it's not bad. If you can catch that 44.5 out there that's still available at some outlets, I think that's a pretty good look because I think, Jay, both of these teams get in the 20s. And if that's the way you think, you got to lean on the over at 44.5, 45.
Wouldn't you say that's probably your favorite play in the game?
It would have to be because you know what I'm struggling with in this game because there's a couple different looks I like. I like New England's team total, but I don't really like them at 24.5. If it was a 24, I would like it. There's also odds out there, Jay, taking a look at DraftKings. I know we're located in New Jersey. DraftKings, FanDuel, 19.5 minus 125 for the Titans offense. You know what I mean? Like I know how exactly that.
Yes.
Again, we're not talking about sideways wind and horrible conditions and play real down to the vest. Look at what the Titans have done. Now, the Titans have done it against upper-level defenses, not really. But you can't say, well, the Oakland Raiders defense isn't good. They only hung 41 points. You're asking for 20 points in this game. That's 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals, and you get the team total.
100%, Donnie. 100%, man. Now, let me ask you a question. If you can get 4.5 or you see a 5 out there, do you think the Titans are good enough to squeak in within the 5 points?
Here's my thought process on that. If you think the Tennessee Titans, it's hard for me to put this into words, but if you're going to like the Tennessee Titans at 4.5, 5, or 5.5, there's probably a good shot. What? They win outright in that type of environment. So I would actually rather, if I'm going to look at this football game, I would rather just have Tennessee Titans on the money line. I don't know if it's going to be 23-21 where they squeak out a victory. This might be one of those games, Jay, where at the beginning of the game you say, you know what? Why did we bet against the New England Patriots? They're at home. It's the playoffs. I should have known better. Or it's going to be the flip side on that where you go, didn't we call it all along? The Titans are just a better football team. They won. You know what I mean? That's how I feel.
You can get plus 191 right now on the Tennessee Titans at bookmaker.
No, exactly. That's the way I feel about this game. I'm not looking for the Titans to go out like, oh, they played their best and lost by 3. No, I think the Tennessee Titans, if they are the play in your play, they win this outright, but also can see that same angle where Tom Brady has time to throw. Edelman feels a little bit better. Sanu's a couple weeks past that high ankle sprain, and their offense moves, and it's prime conditions because it's not, again, sloppy field, and we can't do much. I think both teams get in the 20s, and I think this game goes over the total. I like that. You're right. I like that as the best play in this game.
I think, and I think the second best angle in the game is what you said about the Tennessee team total over. I didn't even think about that, but I really like that a lot. I'm probably going to bet that.
Because you're going to get at least 20s and something like that. So, again, all you're talking about is 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. And this isn't like, because sometimes we have that same theory with, like, the Bills, like, well, they really have to hit their spots. If you've watched Tennessee over the past 8 weeks, there are dimes all over the field and weapons all over the field. It should be a fun game there. So we'll keep it moving. That's the Saturday card. Once again, guys, after the show ends, right into the live line. Jay will take you right through, set you up with prop bets, get even more detail into these games. So let's talk a little bit of Sunday football. 145, 146, Minnesota and New Orleans down in the Dome. Again, don't have to worry about any weather conditions, just how loud that crowd's going to be. There's weapons all over the place in this game, Jay. We can agree. If Kirk Cousins can play a decent football game and get the ball to Thielen, get the ball to Diggs, and Cook is healthy like he says he is, they should be able to put up points. And New Orleans at home, that's all they do typically, Jay, is put up points in this game. I got to tell you, though, early in the week, I was really saying, 8 points, 7.5, 8.5, whatever it is, too much. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. But I got to tell you, I'm swinging completely in the opposite direction. And I see points out of New Orleans, and I just think it might be a steamrolling down there because we'll say, Kirk Cousins isn't ready to go in this football game. He can't hear anything. I don't know if I want to put my money on Kirk Cousins. It might be just as simple as that here, Jay.
everybody has been telling me on the other show I'm crazy. I think that the Saints roll the Vikings, bro. Okay, listen. Kirk Cousins' inability to play in national audiences in prime time translates to him on a standalone game in a playoff game against an offensive machine. The Saints offense runs like a clock. They break individual NFL records, what seems like every week. And what gets lost is, I said it every week on the show, they still have a top 10 defense, man. Yes. Now, I like Minnesota. And if this was a 1 o'clock game in week 13, I would probably take the 8 points. But it's not. And I really think that we're looking at a 31-17, 34-17 type of game. I'm going to be on the Saints in the first half. I'm going to be on the Saints in the full game. And, you know, their team total's 29.5. I thought about taking it. I'm not going to take it, but I love the Saints here. I think if Minnesota had a different quarterback, maybe it'd be a different story. Plus, you don't have a 100% healthy Dalvin Cook. Plus, let's be honest, Adam Thielen, when he's healthy, is a phenomenal wide receiver. All he's been out there the last few weeks is a decoy to get double coverage off of Stephon Diggs. He has not been a part of that offense for weeks. So I think the Saints roll, bro.
No, and again, it started with the same exact thing that we rolled over in the early week, because everybody, when you just crack open the lines and you see what they are, they go, oh, look at that, 8 points. Look at that, offense, Kirk Cousins, Mike Zimmer on defense. But when you really break it down, also, there's some key impactful decisions here. Down 2 cornerbacks for the Minnesota Vikings. Also, Eric Kendricks, who's one of the single best linebackers in football, which I don't think is getting that much hype here. Quad injury, questionable, limited in practice. If he's not, the Saints will be able to run the football with that offensive line and stem the tide. Because when you take a look at, Jay, to me in football, Seattle has a nice home field advantage. Kansas City has a home field advantage. There isn't a single home field advantage as big as the New Orleans Saints for a quarterback when you can't hear the play you're trying to give to your team in the huddle. Forget about it, the offensive line of scrimmage where you're trying to get a play call in and use hand signals and a silent cap. That pass rush will be able to come down on Kirk Cousins, and it's a matter if he can make enough plays. In order for you to cover this line, if you take Minnesota, Jay, does Dalvin Cook not have to have 21 carries for 182 yards and 2 scores? Like,
100%.
Really?
Yes. 100%. Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, it's one of those odd ones. And I agree with the total, too, because we haven't looked at that. It's 47, it opens up, goes to 49.5. You should get points in this game because I'm not worried about it. I would be surprised, Jay, at the half. And I know I love your look, too, in the first half for the Saints. Rip roaring up and down the field. 17-10 feels like a perfect halftime score in this game where the Saints have the lead in this one. And if they have the lead at the half, Kirk Cousins, big game environment, coming back from a touchdown deficit second half.
Stop. Come on. It's a no-brainer. Saints all the way. It's the only one I feel absolutely rock solid on this weekend.
Yep. And again, a lot of people will say, oh, too many points, Jay. My dad would tell me that, Don, it's too many points in that. Well, I don't think it's going to be too many points. Last game we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes, Seattle and Philadelphia. Some big news out of the Eagles. Zach Ertz cleared to play tomorrow. We'll see how much he plays because I know a lot, hey, J.J. Watt's back for the Texans. Well, if he only plays 10 snaps and all in 3rd and 7, how much of an impact can you actually have? We'll see what Zach Ertz gets in there because I doubt that you want him in there 1st and 2nd down, run blocking with some fractured ribs and a kidney injury. So we'll see what takes place on that. But also bigger, I should say, Lane Johnson not going to play in this football game. Brandon Brooks on the right side not going to play in this football game. If they were both in, that is a huge difference, but they're not. Jadeveon Clowney, who did miss the first game that they played in Philadelphia, is going to be active for this game. We'll see how healthy he is, struggling with that core muscle injury. Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. Here's the angle I'm trying to work in this game, Jay, because I do think the Eagles are going to be live. Early in the week, I thought it was going to be all Seattle Seahawks. Then you see how banged up and, coming east, and the Eagles play really well at home. That all feeds into it as well. The one thing I don't want to get myself into, Jay, is if it's a close game in the fourth quarter. Now, Carson Wentz has been awesome, but there's only one Russell Wilson and only one caliber of Russell Wilson type player in the NFL. To me, the single most important player to his team, 17-7, 20-20, 4 minutes ago in the fourth quarter. Seattle has the football. They're scoring because it's Russell Wilson. So I'm trying to find a way, if you get a nice little line in the first half, the Eagles will be fired up, ready to play. And Seattle Seahawks have their struggles in the first half to try to take the Eagles at like that plus half of a point, where if it's 14-14, 10-10 tie, you get it. If the Eagles are up a little bit at the half, that you get that. It's hard for me to go against because second half Russell Wilson is the best Russell Wilson. And that's hard to overcome, especially, Jay. We're not talking about Seattle coming in and saying, hey, Jay Donnie, they got to win by 7 to get this cover. You just got to win.
Yeah, you just got to win. He's the best quarterback in football. I don't care what anybody says, right? So, Zach Ertz has been such a gigantic part of the passing offense because it's been the walking wounded out there for you all year long, right? Yep. Lane Johnson, cornerstone of the offensive line, he's not going to play. It's impossible to overstate that loss. So, yeah, I just don't see it any other way than even if this game is close early in the second half, this is everybody forgets, and I did too. This will be Carson Wentz's first playoff start ever, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because Nick Foles took him the Super Bowl year. So, yeah, I think less than a field goal, and all Russell Wilson has to do is win this playoff game. Yes, they are slightly unhealthy. I understand that. Philadelphia is more unhealthy. Yes, they're on the road. The link is going to be popping. It's not going to be anything Russell Wilson hasn't seen before. I think at the end of the day, Seattle all the way.
Yeah, look, and I can't argue because down the stretch, it's one of those things where, boy, if the Eagles can just make it in, it'll be fun. It'll be just a party. And they keep getting more injured, which is crazy because also lost in this fold here, Miles Sanders has been incredible over the past 6 to 7 games.
Yeah.
He's playing, but it's like, remember Saquon Barkley came back from a high ankle sprain? He's playing, but it took him 3 to 4 weeks to get back. Now, it's not a high ankle sprain for Miles Sanders, but he's still going to be banged up. He didn't even practice all week. And yes, I love Boston Scott. He's playing his ass off, and that's all fine and good. But you got to lean on big-time weapons and chunk plays to move down the field. The Eagles technically don't have that. It's a close one. And again, a full game, I do lean Seattle. First half, I do like the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll talk about like the over-under in this game, Jay. Opens up at 46, now down to 45. Again, no weather concerns whatsoever. Two defenses that aren't necessarily great. And again, if you do have a pass rush, both of these kids are active and mobile at quarterback and can make some plays. I still lean on the over because even though the Eagles are downtrodden and banged up and injured, they're still hanging mid-20s, high 20s, and even 30s last week. And you know Seattle, if you push them and they need to score, they can score points. Both of these teams, again, Jay, same way I look at it, they're both going to get into the 20s to me. So I think the game goes over.
I think the game goes over. Yeah. And another thing when you think about it, Philadelphia's come in, they've won 4 in a row. They've played the NFC East 4 times in a row. Twice the Giants, the Redskins, and the Cowboys. They're going to play a real football team tomorrow. And, I think it probably sneaks over the total too. I think the injuries at running back for Seattle probably lends Russell Wilson to throw the football more than normal. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun. Look at how quick that 30 minutes went by. So our time is done here on the closing line. You got your 4-game matchups. We're going to carry you right through on sportsbook.com. Jay, before we get out of here, explain how this weekend is going to work, what you're looking at doing on the closing line, and give the people out there the times to tune in that they can get a hold of the show.
Yeah, so Donnie's going to join us at halftime of both games today on Live Line. We're going to start right now at 3:30. We're going to go till 8 o'clock till the game's over. We're going to switch over to the next game on another video. We'll be on all night tonight. And then tomorrow at noon, we'll be on to get you ready, get the props set up for the 1 o'clock start tomorrow with the Vikings Saints. We'll switch over at 4 o'clock, and we'll get the Seahawks and the Eagles game into. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man. A lot of prop bets. Looking forward to you joining us at halftime of both games. And that's it, brother.
No, we're going to have some fun. Thank you guys for tuning into the close line once again. We'll do it again next week. We'll set it up. I'm sure we'll be having live lines on Saturday and Sunday next week. Keep the party started. Thanks for tuning in to us. Good luck on your wagers tonight. Jay is my partner all season long. Awesome. Can't wait to join you at halftime. We'll have some fun, boys. Take care.
Thanks, bud.